The day Adoma was born, the village elders already knew her destiny. She was the daughter of Chief Boko, one of the wealthiest men in their small town of Kusa. But her future had been sealed long before she could speak her first words. At the age of 10, Adoma overheard her father discussing her betrothal to an older man, Chief Okonkwo, a merchant whose 3 wives had already given him 8 children. He was more than 3 times her age, but none of that mattered to the elders. A deal had been made, a bride price had been accepted, and Adoma's life was no longer hers to decide. For years, she had lived under the weight of that decision. She had seen how other young girls disappeared into the homes of men they barely knew. Some never smiled again. Others were never seen again. But Adoma knew something they didn't. She was not going to accept her fate. The entire village was preparing for the grandest wedding Kusa had ever seen. The market women had woven special fabrics, the drummers were practicing the ceremonial rhythms, and the elders were busy rehearsing the long speeches they would give to bless the union. Adoma sat quietly in her mother's hut, staring at the beaded necklace she was supposed to wear the next morning. Her mother sat beside her, eyes filled with sorrow. "My daughter," she whispered, holding Adoma's hand. "Sometimes, we do not have choices." "But what if we do?" Adoma asked. Her mother only sighed, squeezing her fingers before standing up to leave. That night, while the rest of the village celebrated in anticipation, Adoma slipped out of the hut and into the darkness. She ran. She ran past the river where women fetched water. Past the fields where the farmers rested after long days in the sun. Past the watchful eyes of spirits that, according to legend, protected the village from outsiders. For the first time in her life, Adoma had no idea where she was going, but she knew she could not stop. By morning, she had made it to the edge of the great forest. The land beyond was forbidden, filled with stories of wandering spirits and wild animals. But the fear of going back was far greater than the fear of the unknown. For 3 days, she walked. She lived on wild fruits, listened to the cries of the birds, and prayed that no one would find her. But by the 4th day, exhaustion overtook her, and she collapsed by the side of a narrow river. That was when she heard the voices. When Adoma opened her eyes, she was staring at the face of an old woman. She was surrounded by a group of women of all ages, dressed in garments unlike anything she had seen before. "You are safe now," the old woman said. Adoma had stumbled upon something she never knew existed, Ndimu, the city of women. A hidden village where women who had escaped forced marriages, abuse, and oppression lived freely. They had warriors, farmers, and leaders. There were women who had once been queens, women who had once been slaves, and women who, like Adoma, had simply refused to let others decide their fate. She stayed with them, learning their ways, discovering her strength, and for the first time in her life, making her own choices. Years passed. Adoma became one of them, a warrior, a sister, a leader. But she never forgot the village she had left behind. One day, she returned, not as a frightened bride, but as a woman who had built her own future. The villagers could hardly recognize her. Chief Okonkwo, now older and weaker, stared at her in shock. Her father, Chief Boko, looked at her with shame and admiration. "You were supposed to be a wife," her father said. "I was supposed to be free," Adoma replied. From that day, no girl in Kusa was ever forced into marriage again. And Adoma, she became a legend, the bride who ran away and built a world where women chose their own destinies. If you like this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more terrifying true tales from Africa.